actually even had one year in fifth grade. So I feel like I've kind of run the gamut. But fourth grade is definitely my favorite for many reasons. And probably it's because I don't have to deal with all the stuff you parents are dealing with, because fourth graders are awesome. They're just really great little people. So anyway, on here you have a little sheet in front of you, and I'd like to start by just listing all the things you think are important to you that you want for your child, your children, whatever. Just across the board. So just a list, very quickly. You have maybe about a minute to do this. Got 20 seconds. I always think kids intentionally break the pencils with their pencils. Oh, no, that's either. That's a good thing. This is shared with. All right, we'll call that time. All right, before we even get into that, let me tell you a little bit about how this all got going. Mrs. Douglas happened to stop by one day, and I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it was just after Grandparents' Day, and Mrs. Schmidtnick, your daughter's uncle, was here visiting that day, and he stopped and he asked him, he was looking around, and he said, so how many students do you have? And I said, we have 16 in this class, 17 in the other one. He said, okay, and he's fairly young. And he said, well, you know, when I was in school, we had like 30 kids in the class. I said, yeah, I know. I said, we had between 40 and 50 in our classes. He said, so what do you think is different? Because now they say that, you know, smaller classes are good. And I said, well, I can tell you a few things that are different. Kids are different. Our culture is way different. Parenting is different. And one of the other big things that I think is different is what I talked about as the united front. The support that you get that a teacher sometimes, that I know my parents gave the teachers of their day without any question at all. And there was no question that if you were in trouble at school, that was it. And you weren't going to go home and get any sympathy about that, and you weren't going to get any, are you sure? No, I think we're gonna go talk to your teacher about this. We'll find out about this. So it's just that questioning and that's different. And the discipline itself, of course, was different. Some of you might remember, Mrs. Stormay was telling me a little bit about a paddle in her classroom. I actually had Notre Dame sisters and have no bad stories to tell except about the one ruler that got whacked on somebody's hands and the metal wire went flying through the air and we all just watched it go. And all I could think of was, wow. And I thought, he deserved that. I knew he deserved that at that time. That was in seventh grade. Anyway, but it was just, it's almost like I can still see it. I can still see it. Just watching that. But anyway, but I'll bet that the same thing is, the things that you want for your child are probably the same things that teachers want. So this is just my wish list, kind of, for kids. I want success for every single one of them. Now we talk about academic success. Math and reading are kind of big ones because we know that they're going to offer success through all of their subjects. But I also want to see them socially succeed. But I also want failure for them because I know that that's where they're going to build that resilience. They're going to build the character that it takes to be determined and not give up. I want the character that we've worked so hard here at St. Patrick's School to try and instill in the kids. And a lot of that character comes from our faith, but it's something that we need in the world. I would like to see strong academics and that they take a real pride in their work, that they recognize the talents that they have, and they even recognize that they have something to offer everybody else, even if they're not the top student. but maybe they're the artistic one. Or maybe they're not the artistic one, but they have another talent. I want all of my students to have a love of learning. If they left fourth grade and didn't know anything, that's not bad. I'd want them to know something. But if they really left, but they still loved learning, I feel okay about that. I want them to have friendships, and I want them to have the kind of friendships that are lasting and meaningful, where they learn to be human beings that care about one another. I want them to know that they are loved and cared for, not just by their parents and their own families, but by myself and school and their classmates. I want them to have a faith that they can carry with them, and a sense that that faith isn't this, and this, but it's something that grows within you and changes. I want them to have good role models in their lives, and lots of other things that I haven't quite figured out yet. And every student, of course, has certain things that I'm, think more so that they might need. This is what I want for this student, and so on. Well, the book that got me going years ago, when I actually went back I was a non-traditional student. That's why you probably were wondering why I've only been teaching for 20 years and I look so young. Is that what it is? Anyway, I'm non-traditional. I went back. I raised my children, and no, I didn't really raise them. I tried to raise my children and got my youngest up through kindergarten and thought, I'm going to start going back to school. I always wanted to be a teacher, and it just didn't work out, and I was going to do it and all that, so it went very slowly. And then, of course, my oldest son hit middle school, and things were not going well. So I have a very dear sister who knew about this woman, Dr. Sylvia Rim, and she has written many books. I'll tell you a little bit more about her. And my sister gave me this book, and she says, "To Therese, future teacher of America and present parent, may this offer you some guidance as you guide." And I treasure this book, but I treasure it more for what it gave me at the time when, I was really questioning what I was supposed to be as a parent. Anyway, take a look at this. I'm going to read these. I know they're hard to see. Does this look like anything that might happen at your home? What a beautiful child. There she is right there. She's brilliant. Isn't she perfect? I think she'll cure cancer. Now, my husband and I are now these grandparents, and we do this with our grandkids, and I'm starting to think, oh my gosh, we gotta stop. We gotta tone this down a little bit. But, what could be one of the issues with this kind of a setup? Doesn't it seem like something we should be doing for our children? Beautiful child. She's brilliant. She's perfect. I think she'll cure cancer. Well, you'd almost think that this would be ideal for any child. Sylvia Rim has something else to say about this. Here's something else. Here's the mother, well-meaning. Her son is there. "Mom, I never feel I can do things well enough." And she says, "But John, you're already perfect." Sylvia Rim would say, we're setting our kids up for things, setting up someone for perfection, and then believing that, oh, I'm good, I'm okay, then I won't try any harder, I don't have to do any more. In this case, everybody loves me. I already know I've got it made. Don't worry about anything. Well, here's another one for you. I expect to be paid. I'm not doing the dishes unless you pay me 50 cents. Now, this is 1991, the copyright of this book, so maybe they'd be asking for $1, about 50 or something, yeah. I guess the question here that Sylvia Rim would ask is, what responsibilities do you give your child? And are there expectations? And my husband was telling me, when I showed him this, he said, I just heard something on TV, they were talking about financial, helping kids get financially efficient and all that kind of stuff, and he said they were talking about you should never pay them for jobs in particular, so sorry about all you higher fourth graders out there. But they should have jobs that they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with giving them an allowance. And then once you give them the allowance, the old save a third of it, spend a third of it, and give a third of it to charity or something like that. Kind of an interesting thought. So Dr. Sylvia Rim talks a lot about united fronts at home between parents, We'll talk a little bit about that. Between home and school, the parent and teacher relationship. Extended families. And I just have a little story to tell you about a football player because it just touched my heart so much. My husband was coaching some football this year. He coached many years and went to all those games, and then he got back into it this year, and I went, and I'm sitting alone because I don't have anybody to sit with anymore, don't know anybody. Everybody's so young now. Anyway, and there's this nice young woman sat next to me, and I was a little kind of uncomfortable because I didn't know how to introduce myself, but you don't like to admit you're the coach's wife, unless the team's doing well. So I just thought I'd just wait and see how this game goes. And anyways, and then at halftime, we're still both sitting there, and she's all alone, and I said, who are you here to watch tonight? She said, oh, my nephew. And she told me about a nephew who's got an alcoholic father, whose mother left him when he was about 7 years old. He had come and lived with them for many years, and then the mother gave up all of her rights and didn't want the grandparents or her sister to have to care for him. So he lives with his father. He's a great young man, and she had come over 2 hours to see this game that night. And I thought, wow, what a message that gives to that young man. So those extended families, I think, honestly and truly, as I get older, I can see how valuable they are. I've always thought they were valuable, but it's even more so, I think, in today's society. And we could also add that we need a united front within the school. Sylvia Rim, I'm going to blast through this a little bit, because I was shocked to hear that she was as old as she is. She's got a website, a very good website. I think I have it on your paper. Lots of materials for parents to look at, and teachers. And but I figured, doing my math, she's 77 years old.
Is she still alive?
She's still alive, and according to everything I've seen, she still does speaking engagements. But I was like, whoa. So, like I said, we're talking a little while ago, and she would have been a little bit more. But she actually has a child psychology clinic. But one of the things that I found very interesting with her is that she's done a lot of work with the gifted child. And if you notice in the beginning, this I'm beautiful, she's going to cure cancer, all this. That's a gifted child, perhaps, or has that child just been told, we want, this is what you are, you're this little thing, and you can't be anything else, and will she just believe she is this without even going and doing anything on her own? She also works a lot with underachievers, and that was one of the problems I was having with my 6th grade son at the time, well, along with behaviors. She is known for a common sense approach, has done some work with the Today Show. She was on there for 9 years doing a little side thing. So she's got a lot of stuff she does. Like I said, she does the speaking, lots and lots of books. But this is probably one of her biggest things that she talks about, this idea of referential speaking. And if you remember anything from tonight, maybe this is the one that kind of could make a difference for you, It's, she talks about it as a tool, and it's a sincere conversation between two adults that is overheard by the child, and possibly purposely overheard by the child. But you're not necessarily sitting with the child right there. But I might be sitting over here with my husband talking about Johnny's day today and saying, Johnny's teacher gave me a call after school, and he just couldn't believe how well he did on that science project. I'm talking to my husband, but Johnny over here hears this. And so, according to Sylvia Rim, this is one of the most powerful things you can do for your children. They don't always necessarily need to hear, oh, you are so wonderful, you are so great, and Mr. Thompson thinks you're so great too, but I knew that already. This idea that they hear you talking about it. Of course, it has to stay positive, and you have to be careful that if you are talking about things that are negative or are from Mr. So-and-so called, and this is what I heard, and he's in trouble now, that should be done in private, so they aren't hearing that part of it. And then you can call him in for a conference if you need to. And one of the other keys, one of her big points, is to be careful not to put pressure on a child to be perfect, because she, according to her, that's often a time when they will start underachieving because they think, I can't reach that goal. Everybody thinks they think I'm going to cure cancer. They think I'm beautiful, they think I'm brilliant. I'm just gonna be plain and simple and not do anything. All right, so she talks a lot about setting realistic goals for children and communicating those expectations. And so maybe your child isn't that A+ math student, and that isn't the realistic goal for them. But what is a realistic goal for them? And help them understand that and be proud when they've accomplished those goals. I'm going to kind of skip on this, but this is kind of important. She believes children grow up too fast, and this was in 1991. So she's, she still talks about some of the same stuff. She has a clinic, psychology clinic, family stuff. So she's dealt with a lot of clinical situations like this. So I'm going to move on through this because, oops. Here's some of her books. Some of the things she's done. Raising preschool, and she talks on all of these topics too, gifted and talented, doing some things on girls now. See Jane, this is C. Jane, this is the same book, C. Jane Win and How Jane Won, highlighting some famous women in the world that have, and not just, and actually one of them's a teacher. So not just highlighting, big top, your top tier CEO type thing, but just people who have found what they really wanted to do in life and love it and have been successful with it. So you could check her out if you'd be interested, but here's something else. Talk about the United Front at home, just look at this. What's going on with this kid? If you can't read it, father says, I'm kind, and he's very proud of that, and the mother says, I'm firm. And the child is kind of caught. What might be one of the problems that this might cause? The consistency, good. Unity, I heard. All right. Here's something else. Dad looks pretty grumpy. We've had some days like that. Somebody spilled their milk. Go to your room. And he's heading upstairs, and there's mother and the older siblings and mother's. Later she goes up. I'm sorry, Scotty. Daddy just doesn't understand you. I'll tell you, this was me. This would have been me. I would have felt that this was the very, very good, right thing to do. Protect that child and thing. But she gave me a better understanding of, it's not that you can't go comfort that child or talk to them and whatnot. But here's another example. Now this is an older child. He comes in and he's complaining, Mom, Dad is yelling at me again. And she's just calmly working. She says, John, you wouldn't have to yell if you do what he asked the first time. That's a united front. Okay, so what do you think the united front looks like between school? All right, this is it. Oh, thank you.
That's how we
All
function.
right. So you're going to be in a little group, and you're going to love this. Susie comes home from school complaining about the teacher. She's always picking on me. When it's time to do her homework, Susie cries and says, this is too much homework and I don't get it anyway. My teacher doesn't know how to teach. All right, so some of you are going to be in a little group, and you're going to put on a little skit that's going to show how the teacher can be supported. Yes. The united front between home and school, and others will be showing where you don't see that support. All right? So you guys get this one. And I'd say maybe a group of about 4. See if you guys can work there and somebody can join you. Choose this one. And oh, yeah. I'll be talking to her tomorrow. I'll see what she. Okay. So, do you guys want? Yeah. Give me this. Okay.